Hi, and welcome to Traveling Inside Out. This is Alina, your host. Bună dimineața, Andra. I didn't even know if it's morning. It's 10:17 and I'm still in Brooklyn.
Well, good morning to you. It's 17:17 in Romania, and I'm still in Romania. So I guess, yeah, it was fine that you didn't know exactly if you should say good morning, because it is good afternoon for me.
And for who doesn't know, 17 means 5 p.m.
Yes, true.
For some people, because some people struggle with that. How have you been? As I said in the previous episode, we have actually recorded both episode one after another in April, so we haven't talked like this for like a while now. So how have you been, Andra?
Oh, good. Actually, yeah. I mean, we did talk, but not like this for sure. We had Easter in Romania because we celebrate like you as well, but the Slavic and Greek Orthodox world celebrates a bit later than the Catholic world. I also went to Turkey for that holiday. We had Labor Day. I did some work. I did. Oh, it's been a while, but yeah, I'm still good. How have you been? Busy.
I have been so busy that I actually did not record any other podcast episodes, so I am sorry. I was supposed to say I'm so behind with so many things. I got overwhelmed. I have yet to talk about my immigration story, which I have not. I was supposed to talk about my experience in Washington D.C., then in Texas.
Oh,
Didn't I did not talk about any of them. So hopefully, the festival that I'm working for is going to be ending at the end of June. So after that, I can go back into recording and explaining more about what the fuck happened because some shit happened in my life. Spoiler alert was not pleasant. Most of them not pleasant. Some some things went okay, but like some things went really bad. Um so yes. But that being said, like always, we are starting with our recommendations for the month, which this should have been my recommendation last month, I have to be honest. But it's still not too late. So my recommendation is Turtles All the Way Down, which is a book written by John Green that came out, I don't remember, maybe 2 years ago or so, something, I think 2 years ago, or maybe earlier than that, 2, 3 years ago. However, it's now a movie that can be seen on Max. And um, for whoever is not, for whoever doesn't know John Green's work, he usually writes like coming of age, kind of a, like young adult books. I haven't read all of them, but every book that I read, I've loved it, and I cried a lot. You can't read John Green's books and not cry. That's a given. However, the movie, it's so good. I love when
really?
yes,
Oh,
the movies are, I love movies that are respecting so much of the book. And because the subject of the book is about a teenage girl struggling with OCD and fighting her, what I'm calling inner demons, intrusive thoughts, and things like that. And because the author, he himself is struggling with OCD and other mental health issues and so on, um, it was very important for him to actually have executive decisions. So even though other books of his were movies, and I mean, The Fall in Our Stars, that's a brilliant book and movie also. But for this specific movie, he said that he wanted executive decisions because it was very important for him for OCD to be portrayed less, like he was saying that he wants to be less romanticized as it is in media. So
mhm.
he wanted to give more of his perspective, and it was a big success. A lot of people said that they were showing the movie, people who have OCD were showing the movie to their family to understand more about the struggle that they're going through. So it's obviously like, you're gonna cry. You're gonna cry for sure. And
Oh, that's
the funny bit, just one more thing. The funny bit is that I have been following John Green on YouTube as well. He's one of the OG YouTubers together with his brother. And um, I was on live when he was announcing that the movie is coming out and so on. And so I wrote in the chat, I said, like, is the movie, am I gonna cry more or less than during reading the book? And he answered to me and he said, you're gonna cry more. And I didn't cry more. But I've watched the movie with my husband and he was tearing up as well, which he almost never does.
oh, that's great. That's
But
actually
it was, and he said that he loved the movie as well. So
okay.
100% I recommend it.
That's really good because I'm excited to watch the movie now because I did read the book after you recommended it, and I really loved it. I loved all of her I'm not that I loved it. I related so much to all of her spiraling, to all of the like everything in the book is just so, even the teenage dilemmas, and then like all the mental health issues that she was struggling with. Just I don't I don't identify with all of that, but some of the things I can relate to, and I was like, oh my god, like somebody actually feels the same. It is it's very eye opening. It's true, and I'm really excited. If you say that the movie was also just as good as the book, then yeah, it's rare. For me, I'm going to make a recommendation for a movie as well. It's something, well, it is described as social horror sci-fi thing. It's very interesting. It's called The Platform, from 2019. It is a Spanish movie. I watched it on Netflix and I think it's available in several countries. It is a very interesting and very disturbing social commentary. It is not easy to watch, but it's very very interesting. Um, it is basically about we how we relate to resources, how we share resources, and especially it is all um, treated to describe how people feed. So basically, like there's a platform that's bringing food, and people have to have a short time to eat, and how they struggle with that. It's very interesting. It is, like I said, it's not an easy watch, but it's every person that I've spoken to about this movie, they all found it super interesting and very much worthy to watch.
Some subjects like this, I think you need to be in a specific not time frame, mind frame,
Mindset for
to
sure.
to be able to watch it. But so it's not a documentary,
No, no,
though.
no,
No.
no, no.
Okay. 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 Okay.
It's
Okay.
definitely a movie. Yeah, it's more like towards sci-fi horror-ish. I
Hmm.
mean, it's not terribly horror, but it is a disturbing. It has some disturbing images, and that for sure some disturbing concepts in it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and it is from Spain. I cannot remember the director right now,
Yeah.
but it's
It's
good
okay.
to watch something else other than Hollywood.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually one of the things that I said to my husband, that we have to start watching some European movies as well. Um, but yeah, not that easy with the time and everything, whatever. Anyway, from that, we are coming to which is your idea, because I've been telling you for like 6 months now. Come with ideas. And you came with a great idea to talk about our relationship to food, basically, because we are having different approach,
Yes,
basically. Or is that the sentence in English? I don't know, man. It sounded wrong after I said it, but it sounded okay when I was thinking of. So
in
I
your
don't know.
mind it made sense. It's
Okay. So, but before doing that, I am just curious if you can tell me in one or two sentences what made you think about this subject.
I can't exactly remember when this idea came into my head, but I was cooking something, and every time I cook something a bit more complicated to say, I think of you somehow because,
Oh,
um, yeah, because you bake, you make like you tried, Caribbean recipes, you tried so many things, and I'm like, I look up to you when I think about cooking. I'm like, man,
aw.
Alina's like the master, and I don't cook as often because like we're gonna talk about this later, but yeah, like my relationship with food hasn't been very healthy. Um, but yeah, I don't cook complicated things very often. I don't bake very often, and I think I was making some thing that I don't usually cook. I can't remember actually what it was, but yeah, it made me think of you and how I realized that yeah, you and I have different. We relate differently to food. Yeah, for me, if it's something complicated, I will probably not even try to make that recipe. I'm like, oh, this is too much. No, I'll definitely blow it. So I don't even try it. Yeah, when I think of somebody who will try to make things, it's definitely you. Like making the kozonak, the whatever sweet bread rolls, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That is complicated. I mean, complicated. That's not one thing that's easy to bake nicely, and like every time you make it, it just looks so amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I never did that ever.
uh, which because we're speaking about this specific one, I keep thinking because it takes for me like half a day because I need to like it rises like twice or something like that, and then I keep remembering back in the day when um the person living in a village and so on, they would also make the flour and they would
Yes.
you know what I mean. I'm like, we're still having it easy though. I mean, obviously I'm in the United States, I'm probably having I mean nowadays in Romania as well. I'm having things way easier, so I'm making them more complicated to do things from scratch, which I almost don't have to at all because there's so much like, and I mean in Romania as well. But yeah, so my idea was to start from childhood and to see, because I believe that some things like some early experiences that we had with food in childhood might have shaped our habits, or did the opposite, like whatever we experienced in our childhood regarding food would be the opposite of what we're doing as adults.
Mhm.
Because I have to mention, we both had some struggles, like not only with cooking, like actual eating and so on, but again on the opposite side. So
Yeah.
we can get into it. So first I'm curious to know from you, when did you start, like, if you can remember, what's the earliest memory that you have of you cooking by yourself? Like it was just you, Andra, no adult around you, and
Mhm.
you would make, and even whatever it can be, like the smallest or like the simplest thing. Do you have a memory like that?
I do. I mean, I guess I made sandwiches for myself when I was like a little kid, whatever, but that doesn't count as cooking. The first cooking, real cooking that I can remember was, I guess, I think I was 10. It was like summer holiday. And my mom had like a long day at the office. She had to stay over hours or something. She called home, and she on the landline. We had only landlines back then. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to be home late. And my dad was, he usually worked until like 5 p.m. anyway. So I was basically alone at home with my cats and my dogs. And I had some food in the fridge, but I thought it would be nice for me to make something like warm food for my mom when she comes back, because she was the one doing all the cooking in the house. And I remember making deep fried courgette, like the
Oh, okay. Or
remember.
zucchini. I don't know the difference between courgette and zucchini. I have to be honest, I'm not that
I don't even I don't either. So yeah, it was something like that. Yeah. So you know how you slice them, and then you put some salt on top, and then you like put them through flour and a bit of egg, and then you fry them in oil. That was the first thing I did. I think I burned them a little bit, but my mom was super impressed when she came home. She was like, "Oh, you made food for me!" Like, I thought it would be nice for me to wait for her with food, because she was gonna come home late and she was gonna be tired. And my dad has no idea how to do anything in the kitchen. He many times when my mom is like off
What?
on work trips, he barely even heats up his food. So yes,
I'm
um,
shocked. What?
like he hates it.
I'm
He
so
wants
shocked.
nothing. Yeah, I mean he does help around if if my mom
Yeah,
tells him
no.
to do
Yeah,
this
sure.
and that, but he does not cook. The only time he cooked is when I was born and my mom was in the hospital and he made soup for her. But like he made my mom loves to tell that story because like he asked, "What do you want me to bring for you? Like what food?" And she said, "Some soup would be nice." And of course, it was not like you can just go ahead and take out. It was the communist times, and
That
he
was Romania in the 80s, in the late 80s.
so he made some vegetable soup, but he let it boil for a while and he didn't even think that you can add on more water. And when he took it to her, it was like really concentrated, like this like soup essence. And she was like, yeah, it was good, but I would have liked a bit some more of that soup. Because he didn't know. He was like, yeah, I boiled it. But my mom was like, where's the rest of the soup? This is, I heard the story secondhand, but she was like,
Yeah,
where's the rest of
obviously.
the soup? And he was like, well, it boiled away. So this is what was left. So yeah, that was my dad's only cooking trial. And then my first one was when I made the deep fried zucchini.
So my one of my earliest memories, again probably around like 10 years old or so, I know that I wanted to, okay, so first and foremost, I don't know what was your kitchen situation. We, as I was growing up, so I mentioned this before, that I moved a lot of times in the kitchen in the first two places where I lived. We had the gas canister, the huge gas canister. I forgot how it's called. Um,
Yeah.
Whatever, like that thing that you
Hmm.
have to turn on, that is hooked to the stove,
Hmm.
and then you have to turn on the stove. But I was not able to turn on the stove. I think it had that thing that you have to press on so you can turn it on,
Hmm.
and I
It
would
was
just not,
not easy
I
to
would not, no, I was not able, like I would struggle so much to turn that one on. So I was using a radiator. Now, thinking back, there's so many jokes all around, like how people living in the 80s, 90s, or even earlier, obviously, how dangerous their life was because there was no supervision, there was no
Yeah, you could easily
whatever.
blow
So,
out blow up the house anytime as a kid.
yes. So I made French fries because my parents were at work. My brother and I, we were in school. However, we had different schedules. So um, because the school, we had more classes than space in that building, so we would have like morning shift and evening shift for
Hmm.
school. So we
Yeah.
would do that. And I don't remember if I was the morning shift or the evening shift. The point was that my brother was not with me, and I wanted to make French fried, and I couldn't. I was not able to turn on the stove, so I made it on the heater that had exposed like the tiny curly thing that it's actually, if you put something on it, it's gonna burn. It was like an
Okay. The
exposed thing.
the actual like heating
I don't
wires.
know how it's called. I really don't know how it's called. I don't know how it's called in Romanian either. Like I
Yeah.
really don't know how it's called. So I made the French fries, except that obviously is taking a long time to make. And my French fries were almost raw. And my brother kind of said, like, no, don't eat this. And I started crying, no, but I made them. And
Oh
I
my
was almost crying, almost crying because no, but I made them. And he's like, obviously, I didn't understand then that I understand later in life that he was saying, you're going to get sick. Don't eat raw potato. But for me, it was like, no, you don't believe in me. So that's one of the first things that I remember. But um, I have been by my parents' side cooking. So my dad would usually cook maybe breakfast in the weekends
Hmm.
and maybe a roast. But that was a little bit later in life when I was a teenager or even later. But I would be by my mom's side. Like so early in life that I don't even have the memories. I just know from her.
Mhm.
And I was by her side, like when she was baking or when she was, I was just, you know, in the kitchen looking at her, trying to help. She would give me something to chop, 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 or stuff like that. Um, and we have been cooking together up until I moved out of the house. Like we've been, some things we would do together, or I would help her, or things like that. But the second thing that I've done, which was a little bit later, so I was already in the seventh grade, which is like 13 years old or something like that. I started making that pizza that I was making it in a pan
Mhm.
on the stove. It's more, it's a bit similar because the dough, like you put the topping within the dough, kind of a thing. So it's more like a pie, but it's everything like a pizza,
Mhm.
basically. So I've been doing that since seventh grade because I found that recipe from my mom's neighbor, from our neighbor. And I was making that all by myself with all of the things, like using a mixer and all of that.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So that's like the first, that was Alina's recipe. In time, it became Alina's recipe, that pizza on the stove kind of a
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm. Mhm. I don't
Um,
think I've tasted
so
that. You did mention several times that you were making it, but I don't think I've ever had it.
I made it for you, but I made like it was the same recipe, but I made it in the oven.
In the oven, yes, that one I do
Yeah.
remember. Okay, so it's the
Yeah.
same recipe. Okay.
It was the same, but I made it because it was bigger. So that's why I made it. It was the same recipe, but I made it in the oven. So we have the space because I mean you can make it in the oven as well. The point was that you can make it on the stove in a pan that as long as you have a lid on. Okay, so I am curious from your childhood, if you remember, were there any foods that you didn't like? So now we're we're done with the cooking part. I'm just curious about the eating habit.
Mhm.
If there were, because I can tell you from my perspective, I didn't like any kind of soups.
Okay.
My mom keeps telling a story about we went to the seaside back in Romania, and I would just run between people that they were we were on the beach and everybody had their towels and everybody, like chilling and all that, and I would just run from one person to another person. I was a toddler and I would just run from one person to another person and do like this, and I was asking for meat. I was like, which is carne in Romanian. So I would just be like this and be like, carne, carne, carne. And I was just going so, and my mom was like, "I'm sorry, I promise you, I'm feeding my child." Like,
Oh my god, that's so embarrassing.
so to the point that I do have this memory when I would eat soup, like when we would have, and just to explain this, in Romania, usually we have soup and then the main course. So that's like, and then dessert. That's kind of like having soup. It's something in a family in Romania you will have it very often. And so I I didn't like soup, but I would like the meat from the soup. So I remember that I was doing this mental game that I never said to anyone. I don't know, maybe I mentioned afterwards, but I didn't say to anyone back then. I would have as much soup as I could. The moment when I was eating the meat, that was the end. So I was trying to like have as much soup as I can to basically at the end to be like, okay, now you can have the meat and that's the
Mhm.
end. But I didn't like, oh my God, like all of my plates were looking really crazy because anything that was green in the soup, I would just put it
To the
on the
side.
side. Yes, on the side of the plate. My father was calling it that I'm fishing. He, he was like, stop fishing your parsley or like whatever
Yeah.
it was, like nothing like that. And there were a lot of things that I didn't like to eat. I have the memories summertime being with my grandma that I was forced to eat stuff, and my cousin and I we were both crying, and Adi was like my sibling was like, "Pom, pom, 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 pom." And we were like, but we don't wanna. We were just crying all the time. We didn't want anything later in life to be like, oh my god, I miss my grandma's cooking so much.
Yeah, all of
But yeah, so these are some of the examples. Tell me about you.
it. I do think that when I was a kid, I didn't like soup either. Not too much. There were some soups that I kind of I was okay with, but I was soup was never my first choice. And yes, in this part of the world we have like this clear soup that's very like watery. It's not like cream soups. It's really like, yeah, watery. But I do have to admit now that I'm an adult, especially after I've been traveling and I, had like irregular meals and chips and all sort of shit. Some soup is actually very nice. It's a very nice change after that. But yeah, I don't think I liked soups too much. But the other thing that I didn't like was, and it's funny that you mentioned you liked the meat in it. For me, I never liked the meat. For me, eating the meat was something that I kind of had to. And
Oh
because,
wow.
I was a kid and growing up, they were like, oh, you have to eat your meat. You're leaving all the meat in the plate. So basically, for me, not the greens, but the pieces of meat. There were some things that I did enjoy eating. Like, there was some like really like dry salami and like some things I did like, but I was never a huge fan of having like a huge chunk of meat in my plate. I ate that just because, and all the way to my adulthood, every time I visited any relatives in my family, everybody was like, why don't you eat your meat? That's why you're so skinny, because you don't eat your meat. And it took me 33 years to finally own it and to say, you know what, I never wanted it, so I'm not going to eat meat anymore. So yeah, for of over 4 years now. No, actually, yeah, almost 4 years now. I've been a vegetarian, but I remember that when I was a kid, I was like, I don't want this, and everybody was like, no, you have to eat it. You have to eat it. So yeah, that's another thing that's, I guess, very different for the two of us. I mean, I know you don't eat a lot of meat anyway, but yeah, for me it was something that I didn't actually enjoy. And when I stopped eating meat, people around me, they would be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm eating meat around you, I don't want to like tempt you, I don't want to like make this choice difficult for you. And I'm like, actually you're not, because I don't want it. That's the thing, like I don't have to force myself. I really don't want it. And I don't want to sound preachy at all. I'm not judging anybody who eats meat. This is actually really is, it's just a personal choice. For me, I never actually wanted to eat it. It was just difficult for me to finally admit it to myself that I don't have to eat it, because I'm not a child anymore and nobody is telling me what to eat, that I make my own money and I can buy my own food. So
Yes,
I
exactly.
don't have to. Yeah.
That's yeah, yeah, exactly. One of the things that I always, when I talk with Americans here, they are always so shocked how we didn't have cafeteria in our schools. Um, Growing up in any of the moments of my school, okay, when I went to university, there was a cafeteria for students.
Well, yeah, not
Okay,
high
so
school.
because, but I didn't. I went maybe a few times because I didn't have. I wasn't staying. Later in life, I stayed in a dorm, but even then, so it was a bit complicated. But I want to say that we didn't have a cafeteria growing up and all that in the school. But so I'm curious about you. What were you doing when you were in school before high school? Because I was telling people that I was just having sandwiches. Like I would have sandwiches made by myself or by my mom or by whatever. And we wouldn't even buy, there would be like a kiosk with snacks, but my parents wouldn't give me that much money. I wouldn't have my pocket money, blah, blah, blah. No, I would get some cash from them from time to time. And then I would buy some French toast. I don't know why it's called French toast. Either way, the point is that the French toast that I've been making to that point, and in my family, what we were making as a French toast was salty.
Okay.
So we would have like paprika over it, or, salt and pepper, or some herbs of some sort. Things that kind of how you would prepare the egg for like an omelet, but
Mm-hmm.
then you just put your bread in and then
Oh,
you
interesting.
fry the
Okay.
bread. And so I didn't like the sugarness of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I would have it because then what the hell am I eating? I would have it. But the thing is, and this is what I want to say, is that living in a dorm, I didn't have access to a fridge.
Right.
Maybe at some point I made friends with a girl that she had the fridge, but I would not have access to the fridge. And in going to school, they wouldn't, like, from breakfast, I wouldn't make sandwiches or something like that to have what to eat during break time, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I was kind of trying to get some snacks. But it would happen that I would have breakfast before school and then I would have lunch just after I finish school. So I would have lunch around 2:30. I think I would finish school at 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2 something I would start reading, and then I would be back by 3 something back in the dorm, I think.
Did you also have dinner at the dorm cafeteria?
No,
Did they?
that's what I was saying. They were giving us the finetti and the snack.
Oh,
It was
just
just
that. Okay.
for dinner. Yeah, we would not go back. No, 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 no.
Okay.
Because they were closing, I think at 3 p.m. they were closing. And
Oh.
yeah, I remember that at some time I had a class. I think it happened one semester that I had 1 day per week that I had my class. Um, I had a class until 3 p.m., so I wasn't able to go. So that I would ask my friend to just take my dinner for me. Um, because I wasn't. Which, now that I think about it, this sucks so bad. Like,
It,
what? What kind of life is this, man?
it's terrible to just have like some chocolate spread for dinner. It just
Yes, Sandra.
sucks.
Yes, yes.
I mean, when
And,
you're a kid, I guess it sounds good, but
and I mean, yeah. But I also have to mention that we did have access to a kitchen in that dorm. But
okay.
I do not know. I need to talk with my mom. I'm not sure if it was just us struggling with money or not thinking about it or thinking that I don't have time for it. She would never give me products that I can later on cook, or maybe the lack of fridge,
Mm-hmm.
whatever combination it was. I would never get. So the only food that I would get from her, from like from home, it would be already cooked, and it would be like schnitzel or some
Right.
fries, or usually this would be like fries and meat, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That I would have that evening, and then it may be a little bit depending on if I would finish or not the following day. And
Right.
I lived like that for 4 months, for 4 years.
Damn. Yeah.
So now you tell me your experience in high school. How was it with your eating during school days? I mean, like, actually,
Right.
breakfast, lunch. How would that go?
For the most part, I don't. I try to wake up earlier and eat something before going to school. My parents insisted have a bite, but because I lived kind of far away, so we lived outside the city, so it was like half an hour to drive. I would mostly just take something and like snack on in the car for breakfast because I was already like I didn't want to wake up too early. And then, yeah, most of my high school years were sandwiches for lunch. Sometimes we would prepare like two sandwiches, and what, like with my best friends, we would kind of like swap sandwiches and things like that. Um, I loved putting mustard in mine. Like I said, pickles. I like pickles as well. So sometimes I would make them spicy. And yeah, my best friend, she used to like having a bite of my sandwiches as well. It was a thing back then. Like she would just be like, "Can I have a bite?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Then she would just like somebody else would come and was like, "Oh, is that good? I want another bite." And I was like, "Sure." Yes. It would just like just take a bite off of each other's sandwiches. So that was, yeah, for the most part, my high school. There were times when I didn't feel like having a sandwich yet again, so yeah, maybe my parents would give me a bit of money and I would get something from a bakery that was nearby, near the school. I don't know, like the classic fornetti that we used to have, the little tiny things that were filled with all sorts of things.
Yeah,
um but it was, yeah, it was not very very often. Yeah, and in high school I was a bit more self sustained, I guess. I made sandwiches for myself more. What you said about your cafeteria experience was closer to my university time, because yeah, in university, well, we had access to a kitchen as well. I would sometimes make fries for myself or something fried. I would probably go to cafeterias. It wasn't just one cafeteria that we were confined to. It was the one in the campus that had okay food, but there was one that was a little bit better food, but also more expensive. It was the cafeteria from the medical school. So
That one's.
my mates and I, we used to go and eat there because they just had more choices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, most of the times when I would come home for the weekend, on Sunday when you go back, and also all of my roommates in the dorm, we all brought food from home. So we all had, like you said, like Wiener Schnitzels or the zakuska, the vegetable spread, and we would make like a sampling evening, a tasting evening with like zakuska from my mom, zakuska from like and somebody else's mom, and so on. And we would all like make a picnic and just like taste the differences. Like, some people do the wine tasting. We would be like vegetable spread. It's like, oh yeah, this is spicier, this is less spicy, this is sweeter. We did have a fridge in the room, though, in the dorm room.
Okay,
uh
but this was university, right? You yeah. Okay.
yeah, my high
So
school survived on sandwiches
so
mostly.
um I just wanted to say something that I remember because you mentioned Fornetti. Um a few was it maybe back in 2019, uh 2021, 22, one of these years. I was in Romania. You know what? I was with Brian 2021.
All right.
Um so uh, I had some Fornetti and I was so excited because, yeah, as it turns out, they actually came out in our country around when we were in high school.
So
So
it was
that
you were originally from Romania.
I'm not sure if they are or not from Romania, but they started to be a thing in our country, either as a original or not. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was just around when we were in high school. I thought that they were longer, but it wasn't. And so I back in 2021 when I was still using Instagram, I made a story about, oh my God, like after so many years and I'm eating this again. That's so cool. And I tagged them and they shared my story.
They did. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
But did you
And
like
there are,
as much?
excuse me?
Did you like him just as much as when you were a kid?
Yeah, now that you told me, I forgot about it. In high school, I would have a little bit of money and I would buy because that's the thing. Where my dorm was compared to where my cafeteria was, I would walk all through downtown area of Sibiu.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant that I would literally have access to all of the places that would sell. So we all knew where to go and what to buy and so on. So yeah. Um, yeah. Then coming to university, my first, so university for me meant 3 years and then plus two, all of them in Romania, minus 4 months in Turkey. Um, I was living in rent. So I rented a place. I had stayed with the host most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I had roommates as well. And so I would get, you know what I would do? So my parents slash my grandparents was, um, they were paying for my rent and they were paying for my school. And the rent I was supposed to give it in euros.
Mm-hmm.
So they would check what's the exchange rate and then they would give me the money. So then I can go to the main city where I was and exchange it. So I would go and try to find the best exchange rate so I can have some money.
Oh,
Those
so
were That was my pocket money.
great.
Like I was like scouting the goddamn exchange rates offices, and I knew Marosht was cheaper than any other place. And lucky I was the one living in Marosht. So, but I checked. I went bam 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 bam. I was checking like for real. So what I wanted to say with that is that my grandma, in the beginning, she would also just give me already prepared food,
Hmm.
and then later on she would give me again meat, potatoes, and things like that that I could make. And that's when I started to make potato stew. I
Okay.
made potato stew so often that to the day my roommate that I had in in the second and third year, she keeps asking me about the potato stew if I'm still making it. I was making it all the time, to the point that I said I think I can make it with my eyes closed. It was like I was like it was, and I would have cabbage as a salad,
Hmm. Right.
and it was just so great. So yeah, I didn't have that experience of a dorm in university until the last year of university. No, wait, the second semester of my first year in masters.
Hmm.
And the boyfriend at the time was also living in a dorm, so I would go to him and we would cook together with other people,
Okay.
basically. So I wasn't cooking that much in my dorm, and uh, I think I went with him maybe once or twice to the cafeteria for medical students, because he was
Okay.
yeah, he was studying whatever. I'm not gonna give that many details about him. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
um yeah,
Relevant.
the point is that I went there twice and I wasn't impressed because I
Oh,
heard so much about it, and I was like, meh, whatever.
the one in our
What?
campus was worse. It was like this is. It was the food was pretty bland.
Yeah. But to be completely honest, Andra, growing up, our food was very bland because
It
my
was
dad would not like most things,
same.
and
Same with my
and
dad.
my mom, she cooked the way that he liked it.
Yeah.
I think I said this maybe before, that they are coming from two different regions in Romania,
Hmm.
and those two regions, they kind of have different. I mean, obviously, still Romania, we have similar foods, but there are some things that are being done differently. But then later on in life, do you know what we found out? And my mom was shocked. So apparently, he was saying, or that, I don't know if he said that or that's how she took it, that some things that he didn't like, he, she assumed that it was the way that his mom was making the food.
Okay.
So she, coming from another region, she was like, okay, I'm gonna do it how his
Well,
mom
that.
was doing the food. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to learn that actually his mom was not doing like that and he just didn't like it. And
Oh. Okay.
he was like, I'm with my own family. I can make my own rules. I'm the head of the family. I'm gonna make my own rules. Everybody's gonna follow what I'm saying. And I'm like, yeah, but don't you actually doing something like grandma was doing? Because she was, you know, I don't know. But to be very fair, later in life, grandma kind of started to uh, know, for example, what my brother liked, and she was already cooking things for him. She
Okay.
kind of understood what I liked, and she would cook it more like different a bit for me. Um, but because we did spend the summers there, we
Hmm.
were not allowed in the kitchen. We were not allowed. So that was so confusing because we were not allowed to do anything. But then later on, she was like,
Oh, you
okay,
never.
yeah, you're never helping me. And I'm like, because you didn't. And so I knew that she's older, and I was feeling like, oh man, she has so much knowledge in her, damn it. And so that's why I was speaking about kozonak and things like that. I
Hmm.
asked her, grandma, teach me how to do this, teach me how to do that, because I did live with her for a few months, and she was disappointed in me because obviously, do you want to guess what the disappointment was?
What didn't you do right? You didn't.
I
Um,
wanted to use the mixer, and she was saying the mixer is not good enough. You need to do it by hand.
oh my God, really? Oh God, yeah. Oh
Like, for example, to beat the egg whites, you know,
God, yeah.
or like
This is
something like that.
what I dislike most about baking, when you have to like keep like beating those eggs until. Oh God, yes. And kneading the dough also is something that I dislike a lot. And my grandmother would. I didn't live with my grandparents, but in the times when I was with them, my grandma would say, okay, she would knead the dough for a bit, and she would then ask me to continue. And like after 5 minutes, I was tired, and I was like, "Is this done?" And she was like, "No, you have to do it more." And I was like, "Give 2 more minutes." And now, and she's like, "No, you have to do it until you sweat." And I
Half
was like,
an
"Oh my."
hour at least.
So it is one of the things that I dislike most about it. Yeah, about baking bread, about and baking pretty much anything that needed kneading.
Was it at least half an hour, or what was the final?
Yeah, I think so. And I think so, but I kept complaining the entire half an hour.
Speaking about baking, to explain what I mean. I remember I used to help mom to make cookies. I think I said this when we talk about Christmas and so on.
Mhm.
To make cookies for the holidays, for Christmas or for Easter or things like that. Um, she was subscribed to a magazine. I don't remember the name of it. It was just basically housewives that are sending in recipes,
Right. Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
was,
My
and
mom had
so
it.
so then we had that, and we actually got some recipes from that, and we kept making and remaking and remaking. And obviously we also had there are a few famous cookbooks, Romanians, I mean. So we had that as well. My parents were very much interested into books in general,
Hmm.
so they did buy books like that. um and so my mom also had a notebook that she would write recipes from,
Yes.
and she would call, for example, cake Dana, meaning that that recipe is from a colleague named Dana, or like things like that, like prăjitura, nu știu, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think she still has the notebook. However, my mom has a horrible handwriting, and she knows that. Like, it's
It's
one
the
of the
same with my mom.
worst.
Oh my God.
That's
It's
one of the worst handwritings. You cannot understand. Like, it's just horrible.
Yes. Oh my God. I cannot believe it how my mom is exactly the same. And whenever she gives me a recipe, I cannot understand if it's like G for grams or an F for flour or what the heck is this. I call her and I'm like, what is this? And she's like, I don't remember. Like, I cannot understand how you write this like this. Seriously. And she's not a doctor. And your mom is also not a doctor.
She's an engineer, so
Yeah.
I don't know. You would assume that engineers should write better. Yeah, no. From the beginning, my mom said that from the early ages, she didn't like. She got scolded at school and stuff like that from forever. She
Yeah.
had this kind of writing. It was just so horrible.
Oh yeah, I think my mom, yeah, we also used to gather recipes from neighbors, from whatever, like aunts. We got some do you know that this is like a funny story from old communist Romania, former communist Romanian times, but not just communist, also like early democratic times. There was a cake that was called Petre Roman. Do you know that cake? Okay, so Petre Roman was this. I mean, he's really old now, but back in the day, he was like one of the politicians. Whatever, he was a prime minister right after the revolution fell, I think, or something. And he was really good looking. Even now, in his like older days, he has this like young wife. Whatever, he's like a you know womanizer, but whatever. Like
which
back.
which to make a point, other than the current president that we still have for a few more months, most of our presidents or politicians, they were not good looking.
They were not actually. They
Yeah,
were.
so that's why. So not only that he was kind of handsome, or he still is. I haven't seen any pictures of him nowadays. But yeah, back then I think Also because a lot of other men around him were really not good looking.
Yeah.
He
And
was a bit more okay. So
and he
continue.
was a public figure, so he was like this the prime minister or whatever. He was good looking back in the day. And like early 90s, he would go on like these factory visits like politicians would do. And they would go to these like textile factories where a lot of women were working. And all the women were just like swooning when he was coming, like, oh my god, Peter Roman's coming to visit. And like they were all in love with him. He was like, we didn't have any like superstars in Romania back then. And during communist times, you had no access to like, it was very like in secret that you had access to like American movies, so you didn't have any superstars. So he was kind of like a superstar, like an idol, like an icon. And he, like, some of these women, like the working class women, came up with a cake that it had his name. So there is a Petre Roman cake. And one time me and my mom were like, let's just try it. We've never had it, so it was fun. It's actually really good. It has like, it's this like debauchery of caramel, of like
Oh,
some like vanilla cream, chocolate on top. It's like, it's good though. It takes a while to make, but it's good. But it was funny that like women made a cake for, because like to bear his name, because he made such an impact on their lives. So it's
yeah.
something to experience.
Um. So I don't want to finish quite yet, but I do have to mention that we wanted to also talk about food while traveling, but I think this could be maybe a shorter subject in a next episode.
It could actually,
Um,
because there's quite a lot.
yeah, it's quite a lot to talk, and I wanted also to talk about like mindful eating and fasting
And
and things like that.
sustainable
So I
food.
wanted to add that. So this could be like something that we can address in the future. However, I do want to mention one more thing. I mean, not necessarily one more, but another thing, um, which is in general my experience with food. So growing up, some things I didn't like, some things I had to eat. And a few times I would just make my brother have it and lie to the parents that we both ate it. Um,
You are lucky to have a brother.
yeah, exactly. But I do have to say that in teenage years, I did struggle with the fact that I was always a little bit overweight. I was growing up, I was always chubby, um, to the point that I was called, it's difficult to say in English. In Romanian, it's alindop, which makes it's really funny. But now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't know that I didn't like when I was calling when I was being called like that from my grandparents or like
Oh,
neighbors or
really?
things
Your
like that.
family? That sounds like you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes, Sandra. Yes. Later on, I remember that I did have moments in my life when I would not eat at all because I thought that that's the way to lose some weight,
Right.
which obviously we know very well that that's not a solution. But I would try to, I'm not going to eat anything for, the whole day, or like, I don't know, or like I would just eat once a day, or which there are people who that's their lifestyle, and that's okay.
If
I'm
their
not here to
metabolism,
judge.
yeah.
I'm not here to judge. But as a teenager, I was only influenced by the fact that I was overweight and by the fact that I was always feeling that I have too much weight, basically. So I didn't know how to lose it. And I think I mentioned this before to you personally. I don't know that I ever mentioned this on the podcast. I don't know why. That there was this movie that I watched, and it was about a girl that was struggling with anorexia, and she went to therapy, and she tried to get help because it started with her mom telling her that she's too fat and she needs to lose weight and all of that. And she went to therapy and then she got better. But after she got better, I don't remember if she passed away in the movie in the end. I don't remember, but I was a teenager when I saw that movie, and
Mhm.
I remember that I was so shocked to my core because they found her journal, and after feeling better and all that, wrote in her journal that her goal is to lose as much weight as she can get to zero, and not zero as in the size, the American size,
Right.
zero as in 0 pounds or kilograms or whatever you want to say. And that was so shocking, like so shocking to see
Um,
that. And I was like, oh, I don't ever want to be like that. I don't want to get to that. I don't want to but
mm,
and this is the last thing that I want to mention, and then please you tell me from this point of view how you related to food. When I graduated, so I have a BA in communication, specialized in journalism. And so my thesis to finish, to get to the finish line, was about positive manipulation. But one of the points that I made was the documentary Super Size Me, which was very famous at the time. I just recently found out that the person who made, I'm so sorry that I forgot his name, he just passed away because he had cancer. And he
oh.
was like a filmmaker, legit filmmaker.
Mhm.
So the movie Super Size Me, it's about this man that he's going to eat only fast food from McDonald's, I think, for
Yeah, I think.
30 days. And whenever he's being asked if you want to supersize this, because those were the sizes, he would say yes. Like
Mhm.
that was the rule. And he would not eat anything else. And I mentioned that I mentioned the movie Supersize Me in my thesis in a positive way to make us think about our choices and so on. So, having that in consideration, I live in the United States and I feel like I am eating a bit more fast food than before, but I'm eating so like once in a few months, like so
Oh,
rarely
yeah.
compared with an average, because I would eat like a few times a year fast food, and
Mhm.
now I'm eating maybe once a month, once in 2 months, you know. So, or
I mean, it's too
like in a month I'm eating more often, and then we don't eat a bit. My husband says that he's been eating a lot less fast food since I came into his life, while
yeah.
I made it a bit more, you know. And I'm like, you know what? We meet each other in the middle. It's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about your, like, from mental point of view regarding the food.
It is interesting, and we did speak about this in our private conversations, how we had a similar issue with food but from two different directions, because you always thought, oh, I'm a bit too chubby, I should lose weight. For me, I was always told, you're so skinny, put on some weight. And for me, it got to the point where, I mean, I was a skinny kid, I was a skinny teenager, a skinny adult. I guess lately I'm getting a bit more. I'm a lot of, like, doctors still say I'm like, underweight for my age, for my height, whatever, for my constitution. But this is how I've always been. Um, my It got to the point where people, acquaintances, would ask my mom if, like, worriedly, like, oh, is your daughter sick, is she okay, does she have anorexia, is she an anorexic? And i I was never consciously avoiding food. I just didn't, I would eat a little bit and I felt full, so I didn't want to overeat, because I felt it felt like overeating. And because my mom was worried, and because people were pushing her, and like everybody was pushing me to eat, I started, like, trying to eat a bit more after I felt full. And that really made an impact on my relationship with food, where I was like, eating started becoming, um not a chore, but something worse, something that you do out of obligation, like a forced thing. And when I went to college and I realized again, like, you know what? I don't have to eat. If I'm not hungry, I don't have to eat. Basically, that was like the biggest realization of my life. And it sounds weird and crazy. But when I was a kid and growing up, I had to eat. I was forced to eat so many times when I said I wasn't feeling hungry, just because, my family was worried that I was too skinny. And I understand that. But in my mind, I was like, fine, I'll eat, God. And I had to force myself to eat. And I hated eating, actually. Like, I disliked the act of eating. It was never a pleasurable thing for me. And then when I was in university and I was on my own, I was like, I'm just not going to eat. I'm not hungry. And then, I ate less and less, and I lost weight for a while. I was skinnier and everything, and it took years for me to get to the sweet spot of like not forcing yourself to eat, but also not neglecting food because you just don't like eating, and discovering foods that I like. And I realized that, you know what, if I'm not sometimes, and a lot of times, food can actually be a pleasure in life, and you can eat because you like some things, but of course you shouldn't just eat because you like eating and then you go to the other extreme. But you can actually enjoy it. It doesn't have to be something that you hate. um and I guess just in my like late 20s, early 30s, I started kind of like discovering what I like eating and focusing on those things and trying to make food for myself. But yeah, like, because I didn't really like eating for a long time, I didn't really like cooking either, because it was like such a waste of time for something that I don't want to do anyway. I just do it out of obligation. um and a while ago, when I was in the yoga school, I had this nice conversation with one of the girls that I made friends with, and she said she was talking about cooking and how much she likes cooking. um, and I explained this to her, like, yeah, for me, food was never something that I enjoyed, and cooking is also not something that I like. And she was like, but you know what? For me, I see cooking as an act of self love. I do this. She had also had some issues with like losing weight, and she was like, you know what? I do this now as an act of love to myself. I like preparing healthy. I tell myself this is healthy food that's going to nourish me. This is food that I prepare with love for myself because I deserve this, and I arrange it nicely, I decorate it nicely, and it's an act of love for myself. And I found that so nice and so touching that, through cooking you can manifest your self-love in that way. And I was like, you know what, actually, I'm going to try and look at it in this way. And even if I don't feel like cooking so much, at least I try to make my food look a bit nicer, to have a plate that looks nice. I recently bought like these like see-through plates that are really nice, just because just to change my mindset about food. So that was a nice lesson that I got from her.
um yeah, the thing is, speaking about that, I always said that I cook like a housewife, I don't cook like a chef. So my food, more often than not, does not look okay. I do not have the skill set to make it look really nice. Even when, like, even my mom does. Like, I don't know what magic she does. Like, now as an adult, when I started celebrating the holidays of, away from her, and I'm preparing, and I'm really trying, and she's sending me a picture of her, Christmas dinner, and I'm looking at mine, and I'm like, nope, nope,
It's
no.
not picture worthy, but it's tasty. No, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, so that's what I've always said.
Me
So
so.
another thing that I wanted to say is that I believe we, and when I say we, I refer to Romanians, but I also think Americans, so probably it's we in general. We are we don't have we are not trained or schooled in understanding food, like understanding the ingredients, understanding what we actually eat. This is something that I have very slowly, little by little, did, because there's also so many opinions. Like, if you Google right now whatever ingredient, and you try to find out if is this okay for, uh like, is it this damaging my liver, is this good for my liver, is it
Right.
blah 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 blah, you're gonna find 5 million articles holding whatever conception you have. you're gonna find that thing, which is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, one
So
says it's good, one says it's not good. You can find, yeah, a million for every opinion. It's true.
and to prove my situation and your situation, it is so important, which is also very hard. I recognize that, especially in the teenage years. um it's a hard when you're an adult as well, obviously, but more difficult when you're in the teenage years. People are never going to be happy. I was too overweight, you were underweight. They were not freaking
You'll
happy.
always find something.
They were never that. They will never, you will never ever make anyone happy. And I, yeah, I believe that a relationship with food should just help you, because at the end of the day, the whole freaking point is you need energy
Yeah, it's to
in
be healthy.
physically to be
Yeah,
able to do things.
yeah.
So you need to get that energy from the food that you're like, so um yeah, that's my final point.
No, I
That
I agree. It should be it. Our relationship with food should be healthy, and it should, you should enjoy it. You shouldn't feel guilty for eating or for not eating or for eating this or that. It's fine to have a cheat day where you eat fast food or chocolate or sugar, as long as you don't just do that, as long as you understand how much sugar harms your body. You can choose to eat sugar from time to time, but yeah, it like you said, it should be an informed choice, an educated choice. And yeah, if you do it for other people, they're never going to be happy with the way you look. They'll always find something. So,
Andra, it's
I am hungry
June.
now.
It's okay. I'm about to tell you something that you're gonna feel very ashamed.
Yes, I haven't posted anything on my YouTube channel. I knew I was gonna get into that. I knew I was gonna get in trouble.
You said in April, my
Dude.
sweet friend,
And
that
it's in my drafts. I swear I
okay,
have.
why are you not okay? Okay, you know what, people? Let's get into this. Why are you not publishing if you have them in your draft? What makes
Because
you not publish?
I have to
Be
make a
very honest.
voiceover. I have to make a voiceover, and I didn't like the way my voice sounded. I tried once and twice, and then I was like, you know what, I need to do better, and I didn't. Like, I dropped it, but I
What
want to publish it.
what was the problem with the voiceover? Like, what was it that you didn't like?
I didn't like that. I wanted to make it a bit more personal, because the one I'm talking about, the short, is like one day in Bangkok, because I basically had 24 hours in Bangkok,
Yeah,
and I wanted it to be more like not just informative but like friendly, and it didn't sound like friendly fun. It just sounded like go there, I went there, I did this, I ate that, it was fun. It sounded
but
boring.
that's how most of them are, like, especially on TikTok. They are, because they are trying to have it very short. They are like literally like that. I did this, I did that, tururu, tururu, thank you. See me in the next thing.
I guess so, yeah.
However, do you know about the trick? Maybe you already know, or maybe you are the one who told me. I don't even know. When you record something and you want to sound more jovial, I don't know, to smile and in you see how I'm switching to Romanian, to smile while you record.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and okay, so yeah, so presumably your voice is gonna sound. Try it, try it
Okay.
and see how that works. To
Okay.
just smile, like not fake smile. Like, try to smile while you talk,
Yeah. Okay.
basically, and try and see how that works. But also kill, and when I say kill, kill for 1 minute that inner critic in you,
Yeah.
because it's just a short. It does, you just put it out there.
True.
Put it out there. It's not your uh
Yeah, it's
like,
not my Oscar nomination or anything. It's Yeah, it's
it's
true. It's
just a
just one
short.
thing, the one short about what I did in Bangkok in March. Yeah.
Listen, if by next time in July you don't have it posted, I'm
Okay.
gonna prepare something for you.
Like a public shaming thing. Okay.
I'm not even kidding right now.
Okay, okay. Noted.
Um, while for me, I did post a little bit from Washington D.C. I posted I've recently been to the zoo in Bronx in New York. I haven't posted anything about my or have I? I don't remember about the trip in Texas, but it's coming, and I will post some things from because the film festival is coming and I'm nostalgic and I hate that I can't be there. And people are like, why are you not there? I'm like, so I'm gonna probably post some things from the festival from 2 years ago,
That's nice.
um, which just because it's the job that I've been having for 5 million years. Okay, so that was all. I'm not sure if next time we're gonna talk about the rest of the food, maybe later. But regardless, thank you again, Andra, for recording with me,
It was
and
usual.
looking forward to see what the rest of the summer is gonna, where it's gonna take us, and what it's gonna bring.
Yes. Excited for summer, finally.
Me not. I'm so ready for October, to be honest with you. Classic me, classic me. And again, to prove what we said in our first episode, that we are very different, we are
Yeah.
sticking to this. Like we're not just saying.
This is why we have such a great relationship. Complementary.
Yes, exactly. So yes, talk to you next time. This concludes today's episode. Thank you for listening and for reviewing Traveling Inside Out. If you want to get in touch with me, send an email to podcast@alinaigrad.com. And remember, your outer journey begins with inner work. Until next time, bye.